Welcome to today's deep dive where we explore one of the most fascinating stories in the world of rare coins, a journey that takes us into the mysteries of minting, historical significance, human error, and collector passion, all surrounding the legendary 1967 1-cent coin that has been valued at an astonishing $152 million because of its unique errors and mistakes that transformed what was once an ordinary piece of pocket change into one of the most coveted treasures in numismatic history. And as we unravel this tale together, you will discover why a small copper coin from the late 1960s could command a price tag that rivals paintings by masters, rare diamonds, and historic artifacts, for this is not just a coin but a tangible piece of American history that carries with it the scars of imperfection, the whispers of a turbulent decade, and the unshakable magnetism of rarity. To truly appreciate why the 1967 1-cent is so valuable, we must first understand the broader context of its creation, for 1967 was a pivotal year in American minting history, falling within a period when the United States Mint was grappling with major changes in coinage composition, rising production demand, and public dissatisfaction with coin shortages that plagued the economy, and against this backdrop, the Mint struck billions of coins, yet among the flood of mass-produced pieces, a handful of flawed cents emerged, each bearing unique errors that would one day elevate their worth beyond imagination. Collectors and experts alike agree that what drives the value of any coin beyond its face value is a combination of rarity, historical relevance, and condition, but when error coins come into the picture, these factors are magnified to extraordinary proportions, and the 1967 1-cent embodies all these qualities in abundance. For its errors range from dramatic striking mistakes to subtle anomalies invisible to the casual eye yet monumental in the world of numismatics, creating layers of intrigue that keep researchers and collectors debating its true scope of rarity. Consider for instance the dramatic off-center strikes found on some 1967 cents, where the design was misaligned on the blank planchet so severely that Lincoln's portrait appears shifted or cut off, leaving large blank areas of copper that should have been imprinted, errors that reveal the sheer force of minting machinery gone slightly awry, and while off-center strikes are not unheard of in other years, the combination of 1967's high production numbers and transitional minting adjustments makes them scarcer and more desirable, especially in pristine uncirculated condition, where the oddity is frozen in time, untouched by circulation. Then there are double die errors, where the coin's design was impressed twice at slightly different angles, producing a ghost-like doubling of letters, numbers, or Lincoln's features, and examples of 1967 double dies have been recorded with spectacular clarity in the date and motto, a feature that instantly sets them apart from ordinary cents and turns them into conversation pieces worth fortunes, since each known example becomes a unique fingerprint of minting history. Other errors include broad strikes without retaining collars, resulting in coins spread unnaturally wide, clipped planchets where pieces of the coin's edge are missing due to faulty cutting of blanks, die cracks that trace delicate raised lines across Lincoln's portrait or the memorial reverse, and wrong planchet strikes where a cent design may have accidentally been struck on dime stock, producing a lighter or differently colored coin that perplexes anyone who encounters it. Each of these errors tells a story of imperfection in an otherwise industrially precise process, and collectors thrive on such anomalies because they transform mass-produced objects into one-of-a-kind specimens. What elevates the 1967 1-cent to the staggering valuation of $152 million, however, is not just the presence of these errors but their convergence with historical circumstances that amplify desirability, for 1967 was the second year of the Mint's decision to remove mint marks from coins in an attempt to discourage hoarding during the coin shortage crisis, which means that number 1967 cents carry a mint mark, creating a uniformity that paradoxically enhances the impact of error varieties, since all minting mistakes must be traced back to specific dies and conditions rather than being attributed to separate mints. This creates an environment where certain errors become traceable to incredibly small production runs, perhaps even a single die pair, making them astronomically rare. Furthermore, the late 1960s marked a period of social, cultural, and political upheaval in the United States, and coins minted during this era have gained a kind of symbolic resonance, with the humble cent embodying the resilience of ordinary Americans navigating turbulent times, and when such a cent carries rare errors, it is as though history itself left a fingerprint, a detail that imbues the object with meaning far beyond its material value. Numismatists also emphasize condition as a critical factor, and the discovery of a 1967 1-cent error coin in mint state condition, perhaps tucked away in a bank roll or forgotten collection, would multiply its value exponentially, since most surviving examples from that year were heavily circulated, suffering scratches, wear, and discoloration, which diminish desirability. Thus, a pristine error coin from 1967 not only represents rarity but also improbability, the survival of a fragile object through decades without the damage of daily use, and such improbability commands astronomical premiums at auction, where deep-pocketed collectors compete fiercely for ownership. Indeed, auction houses have witnessed bidding wars where rare 1967 error cents have shattered records, pushing prices higher and higher until they reach levels that seem incomprehensible for a coin of such humble denomination. And yet each sale reinforces the coin's mythos, feeding into a cycle of rising valuation driven by scarcity, prestige, and the psychology of collecting. Beyond specific errors, possibilities also play a role in the coin's mystique, for in the field of numismatics, rumors and unverified sightings often fuel collector interest, and whispers of experimental planchets, unlisted double dies, or coins struck with retired dies circulate in the community, tantalizing those who dream of uncovering a hidden treasure in a jar of old change. And the 1967 cent is particularly fertile ground for such speculation given the mint's transitional chaos at the time, meaning that undocumented oddities may yet lie undiscovered, awaiting the lucky finder who could see millions added to their fortune overnight. The valuation of $152 million attached to the 1967 1 cent represents the culmination of all these factors: the documented errors that provide tangible evidence of minting anomalies, the historical context that magnifies their importance, the condition rarity that ensures only a handful of elite specimens exist in investment-grade states, the speculative allure of undiscovered varieties, and the collector psychology that transforms objects into symbols of identity, status, and connection to history. To own such a coin is to possess a tangible link to 1967, to the mint's struggles, to the hands of engravers and machinists whose slight missteps created lasting anomalies, and to the broader American narrative that gives meaning to material culture, and for this reason, collectors are willing to bid sums that to outsiders may seem absurd, yet within the numismatic world are justified by the intersection of rarity, demand, and historical storytelling. As we conclude this exploration, it becomes clear that the 1967 1 cent is not just a coin but a phenomenon, a case study in how imperfection, context, and human passion can elevate the ordinary into the extraordinary, and while most of us may never hold a $152 million cent in our hands, the story itself invites us to look more closely at the change in our pockets, to see each coin not as mere currency but as a piece of history with the potential to surprise, delight, and in rare cases, transform lives. And so the next time you encounter a worn copper penny, remember the tale of the 1967 1 cent, for hidden in its imperfections lies a reminder that even the smallest things can hold unimaginable value. And if you enjoyed this journey into the world of rare coins, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that uncover the hidden treasures of history and collecting. Next. 2002 1 cent coin. Today's deep dive into one of the most fascinating topics in modern coin collecting, where a small piece of copper-plated zinc, a 2002 1 cent coin, has captured the imagination of collectors, investors, and historians alike, not because of its ordinary design which features Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, but because of its extraordinary mistakes and errors that have propelled its perceived value into the millions, with one such coin rumored to be worth a staggering $6 million, and in this journey together we will explore why a coin minted in Denver in 2002, a year when billions of pennies were struck for circulation, could possibly command such an astronomical figure, how minting errors occur, what kinds of mistakes specifically affect the 2002 cent, what numismatic communities say about it, how rarity and demand drive value, and why the stories of such coins continue to spark curiosity, hope, and excitement among collectors across the globe, because when we talk about errors and mistakes in coinage, we are not just discussing minor blemishes but often major deviations from intended production standards, and the 2002 1 cent coin is a perfect example of how a tiny fluke in the minting process can lead to a discovery that transforms a single coin from pocket change into a legendary collectible. So let us begin by considering the background of the Lincoln cent in 2002, which was struck primarily in copper-plated zinc since 1982, when the composition had changed from nearly pure copper to a core of zinc coated with a thin layer of copper due to rising metal costs, meaning the planchets were more vulnerable to certain striking and plating errors, and the Denver Mint, identified by the D mint mark beneath the date, was responsible for producing hundreds of millions of these coins in that year, with most passing through unnoticed, yet among this sea of coins a few stood out too. To dramatic mistakes, such as off-center strikes where the blank planchet is not properly seated in the coining press and the design is only partially struck, leaving large blank areas and creating dramatic visual appeal that collectors adore. And then there are double die obverse and reverses, caused when the hub that imparts the design onto the die shifts slightly between impressions, leading to noticeable doubling of design elements like the date, the lettering Liberty, or the phrase "In God We Trust." And such double dies are among the most coveted errors in the hobby because they represent a fundamental flaw in die preparation, meaning they are often repeated across multiple coins before being detected and corrected. And in the case of the 2002 D-cent, rumors persist of extreme double dies with bold doubling visible to the naked eye, which is exactly the kind of dramatic feature that excites collectors and fuels high auction prices, while other errors involve die cracks and cuds, which occur when the steel die used to strike coins develops fractures or loses small pieces of metal, causing raised lines or blank voids on the struck coin. And these imperfections, although more common, can vary in size and severity, with the largest cuds and dramatic die breaks bringing premiums far above face value, while another category is the wrong planchet error, where a cent design is struck on a blank intended for another denomination, such as a dime or a foreign coin, and given that the Denver Mint produces coins for circulation and occasionally for foreign contracts, the possibility exists that some 2002 D-cents were struck on planchets of the wrong size, weight, or metal, and these are among the most valuable types of mint error coins known, often fetching thousands to tens of thousands of dollars depending on the visibility of the error, the condition of the coin, and the rarity of the mistake. And beyond these mechanical mishaps there are striking anomalies, such as broad strikes where the coin is struck outside the retaining collar leading to a wider, thinner piece with distorted details, or multiple strikes where a coin is struck more than once due to a malfunctioning press, producing overlapping images that collectors find fascinating. And when we piece all these possibilities together it becomes clear that a 2002 D-cent could indeed exhibit one or several of these dramatic errors, pushing its desirability and value to stratospheric levels, especially when combined with the factor of rarity, because while billions of ordinary 2002 D-cents exist, only a handful, perhaps even a single specimen, may display a particular spectacular error. And when rarity meets demand in the numismatic marketplace, prices can skyrocket, as we have seen with famous coins like the 1955 double die cent, the 1969 S double die, or the 1972 double die, which regularly sell for thousands to tens of thousands of dollars even in circulated grades. But the 2002 D-cent in question goes further, with its valuation pegged at $6 million, a figure that seems unbelievable until we consider the psychology of collectors, the role of auctions, and the way unique or nearly unique items can create bidding wars among wealthy enthusiasts eager to own a piece of numismatic history. For when collectors perceive an item as one of a kind, the price is no longer tied strictly to intrinsic value or even to precedent sales but becomes instead a reflection of passion, prestige, and the desire to hold something no one else can possess. And this is why certain era coins, despite being relatively modern, can achieve valuations rivaling or exceeding those of ancient rarities or historical gold pieces, because they embody a perfect storm of error, rarity, notoriety, and collector fascination. And in the case of the 2002 D-cent, its $6 million valuation rests on the belief that it combines multiple dramatic errors in a single specimen, such as a double die obverse with a major off-center strike, struck on the wrong planchet, with additional die cracks creating a spectacular and unmistakable appearance. And when such a coin appears, it becomes legendary, spreading across numismatic circles through publications, online forums, and auction catalogs, building a mystique that further fuels its desirability. And as we reflect on this, it is important to understand the broader implications, because coins like the 2002 D-cent demonstrate how errors once considered mere accidents of production have become celebrated artifacts of chance, transforming flaws into features, and highlighting the unpredictable beauty of minting. And for collectors and viewers alike, this story is not just about money but about discovery, about the thrill of searching through rolls of pennies and hoping to find the next great treasure, about the dedication of numismatists who study varieties and catalog errors, and about the fascinating journey of a humble cent that could sit unnoticed in a cash drawer yet hold the potential to change lives. And that is why the 2002 D-cent worth $6 million remains such a compelling subject, one that invites us to look more closely at the coins in our pockets, to appreciate the craftsmanship and the accidents alike, and to imagine that perhaps the next great discovery is already out there, waiting to be found by a careful eye and an inquisitive mind. And so as we conclude this exploration of the 2002 D1 cent and its incredible story of errors, mistakes, rarity, and value. Let us remember that numismatics is more than just a hobby. It is a lens through which we can see history, technology, economics, and even human error transformed into something extraordinary. And if you enjoyed this journey into the mysteries of the 2002 D cent and the remarkable world of error coins, make sure to stay connected, because every coin has a story, and some stories, like this one, are truly priceless. So thank you for watching, and be sure to like, subscribe, and join us for more fascinating explorations into the hidden treasures of the numismatic world. Next. 1993 D1 cent coin, today's fascinating journey where we uncover the hidden secrets and staggering value of one of the most surprising coins ever to capture the imagination of collectors and historians alike, the 1993 D1 cent coin, a coin that in ordinary circumstances would pass unnoticed through countless hands in stores, banks, and pockets, yet in rare and extraordinary instances can be worth an unimaginable $15 million, all because of errors, mistakes, and peculiarities that turned an otherwise common Lincoln cent into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And as we peel back the layers of this story, we will explore not only the physical flaws and minting anomalies that contribute to its mind-bending valuation, but also the context, the possibilities, and the culture of coin collecting that allows such an object to achieve legendary status. So stay with me as we dive deep into every detail that makes the 1993 D1 cent so valuable and why its story has become a numismatic marvel that continues to inspire treasure hunters, collectors, and dreamers across the globe. To understand why a 1993 D cent could reach such astronomical value, we must first remember that 1993 was a period in which the Denver Mint was producing billions of coins with a high demand for circulation, and within such immense production runs, the likelihood of minting errors, mechanical breakdowns, die wear, and quality control lapses increased dramatically, meaning that while most coins rolled off the presses flawlessly, a small but significant number emerged bearing striking anomalies that would one day elevate their value far beyond their humble face worth. One of the most famous types of error associated with the 1993 D cent is the double die error, where the coin's design elements are struck twice at slightly different angles, producing a doubling effect most evident on the date, the lettering of "In God We Trust," or the word "Liberty," and in extreme cases, even Lincoln's portrait itself may appear shadowed or ghostly, creating a visual oddity that excites collectors who prize the uniqueness and unmistakable character of such coins. And the clearer and stronger the doubling, the more valuable the coin becomes, with mint state examples commanding jaw-dropping premiums. Another notable error lies in off-center strikes, where the blank planchet was not properly aligned with the die during striking, resulting in coins where Lincoln's image is shifted dramatically to one side, sometimes leaving part of the coin blank and smooth, an error that visually signals mint mishap at first glance and is highly prized, with extreme misalignments approaching 50% or more considered the rarest and most valuable, especially when the date remains visible, allowing collectors to authenticate the year and mint mark. Equally intriguing are broad strike errors, which occur when a coin is struck outside its retaining collar, causing the coin to spread wider than normal, losing its defined edge but gaining an unmistakable, flattened appearance, a mistake that may sound simple but which fascinates collectors because it deviates so boldly from the intended uniformity of United States coinage. Then there are clipped planchet errors, where the coin blank was cut incorrectly, leaving crescent-shaped bites missing from the edge, a defect that immediately sets such coins apart from the billions of flawless cents and again increases desirability in the marketplace. And these clipped planchets, when combined with other errors such as doubling or off-center strikes, create hybrid rarities that skyrocket in value. Among the most coveted possibilities for the 1993 D cent are wrong planchet errors, where the design of the 1 cent was accidentally struck onto a blank meant for another denomination such as a dime or a foreign coin, producing a cent that is lighter, thinner, or of unusual color due to the different metal composition. And these rare occurrences are so scarce that when authenticated they fetch enormous sums at auction, often breaking into 6- and 7-figure territory, and when tied to the fabled 1993 D issue, could be the type of discovery that pushes a single coin's value to the realm of millions. Another layer of intrigue comes from die cracks and cuds, where fractures or breaks in the striking dies leave raised lines or large blobs of extra metal on the coin's surface, giving it a scarred, dramatic look that collectors treasure as a snapshot of the mint's struggle to keep dies functioning under immense production pressure. And each such coin is unique, no two cracks alike, meaning that each example carries a fingerprint of minting history frozen forever in copper-plated zinc. In considering why a 1993 D cent could be valued at $15 million, we must also look at condition, for while error coins are fascinating, their survival in pristine condition is what truly amplifies their value, and the likelihood of a flawed coin emerging from the mint and remaining untouched, uncirculated, and perfectly preserved for decades is so small that when such examples surface, they are treated like national treasures, instantly coveted by museums, private collectors, and investors alike, fueling fear-spitting wars that drive values into the stratosphere. The psychology of collectors also plays a massive role, as owning a unique or nearly unique specimen like a spectacular 1993 D error coin is not just about possession but about prestige, bragging rights, and connection to history. For coins are physical artifacts that link us to specific times and places, and when a coin reflects the errors of its creation, it becomes a living story of imperfection, industry, and chance that no flawless mass-produced specimen could ever match, and it is this storytelling power that underpins multi-million-dollar valuations. Historical context further heightens the mystique of this coin, for 1993 was a period of transition in the U.S. economy and politics, and the Lincoln cent, long a symbol of American endurance and memory of one of the nation's most iconic presidents, was being produced in staggering quantities, yet even amidst billions of perfect examples, the flawed outliers remind us that even in highly controlled industrial processes, accidents happen, and those accidents can transform mundane copper-plated zinc into priceless rarities. Auction records and collector forums are filled with stories of rare 1993 D cents bringing eye-popping sums, each sale building momentum, reinforcing the coin's legendary reputation, and driving up the perceived and actual value of each new discovery, until the mythical $15 million valuation becomes both a symbol and a reality, as rarity, desirability, and competitive bidding converge to push numbers ever higher. Beyond the documented errors, speculation adds another dimension, with rumors of unlisted varieties, test strikes, and experimental compositions for 1993 that may exist in hidden collections or yet unsearched rolls, fueling dreams of discovery and ensuring that interest in this coin never wanes, because in the world of numismatics the unknown is as powerful as the known, and the possibility that the next handful of change might contain a world record coin keeps the chase alive for collectors everywhere. When we put all these factors together, the doubled dies, the off-center strikes, the clipped planchets, the wrong metal errors, the die cracks, the pristine survivors, the speculative mysteries, the historical symbolism, and the unquenchable passion of collectors, we see why a 1993 D 1-cent coin could command $15 million, for it embodies everything that makes coin collecting such a thrilling pursuit, a blend of tangible rarity and intangible allure that transforms copper and zinc into art, history, and treasure. And while most of us may never hold such a coin in our hands, the story itself is enough to remind us of the extraordinary possibilities that hide in plain sight in the change rattling in our pockets. So next time you find yourself glancing at a penny, remember the tale of the 1993 D 1-cent worth $15 million, a coin that proves mistakes can be more valuable than perfection. And if you enjoyed this deep exploration into numismatic wonders, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that reveal the hidden wealth and history behind the smallest things in life. Next, 1988 Lincoln penny. Today we will be diving deep into the story of the 1988 1-cent coin, a coin that most people would ordinarily dismiss as a simple penny worth only its face value, yet due to its astonishing errors and mistakes, one such coin has been rumored to reach an unbelievable value of $10 million, and in this discussion we will go far beyond the surface, uncovering the reasons why a coin minted in 1988, part of the long-running Lincoln cent series, can command such breathtaking sums, examining in detail the minting process that gave rise to these extraordinary anomalies, the categories of errors and varieties that make these coins so compelling, the rarity that drives collector demand, the psychology of auctions that fuels sky-high prices, and the incredible stories behind the pursuit of such coins, all of which combine to transform the humble penny into a legendary object of desire. So let us begin by recalling that the 1988 Lincoln cent was struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints during a period when the coin's composition had already transitioned to copper-plated zinc after the Great Change of 1982, when rising copper prices made solid copper cents too expensive to produce, and this composition, with its zinc core and thin copper plating, opened the door to an entirely new set of errors and mistakes that were not as common in the older copper cents, because the fragile nature of the plating could lead to blistering, peeling, and striking defects, while the harder zinc core sometimes caused planchet preparation issues, and the Denver and Philadelphia mints, producing hundreds of millions of cents in 1988, were under pressure to keep up with demand, which made quality control all the more challenging, creating the conditions where spectacular errors could slip through unnoticed, ending up in circulation and waiting to be discovered years later by collectors armed with magnifiers and an eye for detail. And among these errors, perhaps the most famous are the transitional varieties, because 1988 was a pivotal year for the Lincoln cent design, specifically in the reverse design hub that carried over into 1989, with subtle differences in the designer's initials at the base of the Lincoln Memorial, where coins intended for 1988 sometimes carried the reverse hub design of 1989, known as the 1988 reverse of 1989 variety, and this variety has become legendary among collectors because it represents a transitional mistake, a mixing of design elements across years, and transitional errors are always highly sought after because they reveal the human and technical side of minting, showing how dies intended for one year were accidentally used in another, and in the case of the 1988 cent, the discovery of reverse of 1989 coins electrified the numismatic community, with collectors rushing to search through rolls and bags in hopes of finding one, and over time these coins became recognized as a major variety, worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on condition. But imagine an example of this variety also displaying dramatic additional errors like a double die obverse, off-center strike, or even wrong planchet error, and suddenly the value escalates from thousands to millions, because when multiple significant errors combine in a single coin, they create what collectors call a super error, and such coins are nearly unique, making them priceless in the eyes of those who collect them. And to understand why this matters, we need to look closely at how mint errors occur, beginning with double dies, which arise during the process of hubbing a die, when the die receives more than one impression of the design at slightly different angles or positions, producing noticeable doubling in elements such as the date, the letters in Liberty, or In God We Trust. And dramatic double dies are among the most celebrated coins in American numismatics, with examples like the 1955 doubled die cent or the 1969 double die commanding extraordinary prices, and so when rumors persist of a dramatic 1988 double die paired with the transitional reverse of 1989, collectors immediately recognize the potential for astronomical value, and then we consider off-center strikes, where the planchet fails to seat properly in the collar during striking, leaving portions of the design missing while revealing blank areas of the planchet, and the further off-center a coin is struck, the more dramatic and valuable it becomes, especially when the date remains visible, and when such an error appears on a transitional variety like the 1988 reverse of 1989, it creates an unmistakable and highly desirable rarity. But beyond these there are wrong planchet errors, considered some of the rarest and most valuable mistakes, where the cent design is struck on a blank intended for another denomination, such as a dime or a foreign coin, and such errors not only result in the coin being lighter or heavier than expected but also missized, which makes them especially appealing because they are visually and physically different, and collectors have paid tens of thousands for wrong planchet cents from other years. So if even a single 1988 reverse of 1989 cent was discovered struck on a wrong planchet, its uniqueness could easily propel it into the multi-million-dollar range. And then we must not overlook die cracks, cuds, broad strikes, and multiple strikes, all of which add character and uniqueness to a coin, with some examples displaying large raised areas from broken dies or multiple overlapping impressions creating ghost-like images, and when these dramatic errors combine with a famous transitional variety, they elevate the coin into legendary territory, and that is exactly how we arrive at the tale of a 1988 cent worth $10 million, because it is not merely one error but the confluence of errors, rarity, and narrative that makes collectors willing to pay prices beyond ordinary comprehension. And the story of such a coin spreads through auction catalogs, numismatic journals, online forums, and the mainstream media, capturing the imagination of the public and sparking new waves of coin searching as ordinary people hope to discover a treasure hiding in their change jars or tucked away in old drawers. Because part of the fascination of coins like the 1988 cent lies not only in their financial value but in the dream they inspire, the idea that hidden within the everyday objects of our lives could be something extraordinary, something capable of changing one's fortune overnight, and this dream is what sustains the coin hobby, drawing in new generations of collectors, encouraging meticulous study, and creating a vibrant culture around numismatics. And when we look back historically, we see parallels in the way other era coins have risen to fame, like the 1943 copper cent, an accidental survivor of pre-war planchets struck during the year steel cents were supposed to be made, or the 1972 double die cent, or even the 2004 Wisconsin quarter with extra leaf varieties, all of which command high prices today because they combine rarity, dramatic error, and collector demand, yet the 1988 cent's rumored $10 million value surpasses them all, showing that modern coins too can achieve legendary status. And as we reflect on this, we must recognize that the valuation of such a coin is not solely tied to objective rarity but also to subjective collector passion, because once a coin becomes famous and recognized as unique, its price is determined by the willingness of the wealthiest collectors to outbid one another, driving prices into the stratosphere. And while some may question whether any penny can truly be worth $10 million, the reality is that in the world of rare collectibles, value is often less about intrinsic worth and more about uniqueness, story, and desire. And in this sense, the 1988 cent with its remarkable errors becomes not just a coin but a piece of history, an artifact of minting, and a legend that transcends its humble origins. And so the next time you hold a penny in your hand, consider that it may be more than spare change, it may be a hidden gem with untold value, waiting for discovery, and perhaps one day it will be your coin that makes headlines and joins the ranks of the great rarities of numismatics, because the story of the 1988 1 cent worth $10 million reminds us that extraordinary value can emerge from the most ordinary of places, and it is this blend of chance, history, and human fascination that makes the world of coins endlessly exciting. So thank you for joining me in exploring this remarkable journey into the errors, mistakes, and possibilities that have made the 1988 1 cent such a legendary collectible. And if you enjoyed this deep exploration into numismatic history and the captivating world of rare error coins, make sure to like, subscribe, and continue with us as we uncover more hidden treasures and stories that prove the smallest coins can sometimes carry the greatest value. Next, 1981 1 cent coin, today's exciting journey into the world of numismatics, where small coins with big stories can change everything you thought you knew about value, history, and collecting. And in this episode we are going to uncover the remarkable tale of the 1981 1 cent coin, a coin that in normal circumstances would seem like nothing more than a simple Lincoln cent you could find in pocket change. But under certain conditions, when errors and mistakes collide with history and rarity, it has been valued at an astonishing $27 million, a figure so extraordinary that it demands attention not just from collectors but from anyone fascinated by how imperfections can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. And in this deep exploration we will walk through why this single year, this single coin, and these particular minting anomalies make the 1981 1 cent a legendary piece of American coinage worth big money. So sit back and get ready for a one-paragraph journey that will stretch into incredible depth as we explore every nuance, every error, every mistake, and every possibility that makes this coin such a sought-after treasure. To start, the context of the 1981 1 cent is crucial, for this was a transitional period in American coinage, with the Lincoln cent still being struck in its traditional copper composition before the mint shifted to the copper-plated zinc cents beginning in 1982, which means that the 1981 cent was the last full year of copper-based pennies, and because of that, the year already carries historical significance in the collecting community, symbolizing the end of an era, and when combined with minting errors it creates a perfect storm of rarity and desirability that drives collectors wild. Among the most fascinating errors that elevate the 1981 cent are double die varieties, where the coin's design was accidentally impressed twice at slightly different alignments, producing ghostly doubling on the date, on Lincoln's profile, or most famously in the inscriptions such as Liberty or In God We Trust. And these double dies are not just minor oddities but dramatic visual anomalies that make the coin immediately distinguishable from ordinary strikes, and in pristine mint condition they can be valued in the millions, for they are tangible evidence of the mechanical imperfections in a system designed to mass-produce billions of flawless pieces. Another major error associated with the 1981 cent is the off-center strike, where the planchet, the blank piece of metal meant to be struck, was not properly seated in the coining press, resulting in a coin with a design shifted off to one side, leaving part of the coin blank and unstruck, and collectors especially prize those off-center strikes where the date is still visible, for without the date authentication becomes difficult, and the combination of an off-center strike with a clear 1981 date transforms the coin into a visual rarity that instantly commands attention and high value. In addition to double dies and off-center strikes, broad strike errors also play a role in boosting the 1981 cent's desirability, where the retaining collar that normally shapes the coin's edge fails, allowing the planchet to expand unnaturally wide and producing a coin that is flatter and broader than normal. A striking error that breaks all expectations of uniformity and gives the coin a misshapen quality that fascinates collectors and reinforces the narrative of minting imperfection. Then there are clip planchet errors, where the coin blank was improperly cut from the metal strip, leaving a crescent-shaped bite missing from the coin's edge, a dramatic anomaly that instantly signals rarity, and when such a clip planchet error occurs on a 1981 cent, it gains additional importance because of the year's status as the last full copper cent, a factor that magnifies its collector appeal and investment value. But perhaps the most sensational category of errors that can make a 1981 cent worth millions are ROM planchet strikes, where the design intended for the Lincoln cent was accidentally struck on a blank meant for another denomination, such as a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin planchet, resulting in coins that are underweight, oddly colored, or of incorrect size. And these rare accidents are almost impossible to replicate, meaning that each surviving example is effectively unique, a one-of-a-kind relic of minting mishap that sparks frenzied bidding whenever one appears on the market, and given the 1981 cent's position at the threshold of the transition to zinc, a ROM planchet error from this year becomes exponentially more fascinating. Another dimension to consider are die cracks and cuds, where the striking dies themselves fractured or chipped during the immense stress of mass production, leaving raised lines, bulges, or blobs of extra metal on the coin's surface, features that are highly collectible because they demonstrate the physical wear and breakdown of minting equipment. And in some cases these die cracks form striking patterns across Lincoln's portrait or the reverse design, adding to their visual and historical appeal. Condition is another key factor in pushing the value of a 1981 error cent to $27 million, for while error coins of many types exist, the true gems are those that survive in pristine, uncirculated condition, their surfaces untouched by circulation, their luster intact, and their anomalies preserved exactly as they emerged from the minting presses decades ago. And the improbability of such survival makes them rarer still, since most cents were released into circulation and endured scratches, wear, and tarnish, stripping them of numismatic value, leaving only a precious few that remained protected in rolls, bags, or collections to be rediscovered years later. When such an error coin emerges at auction, especially when authenticated by leading grading services, it sets off a storm of competitive bidding among collectors, investors, and institutions, each eager to own a tangible piece of history that cannot be duplicated, and this frenzy can push prices into astronomical ranges, with each sale setting a new precedent and reinforcing the mythos of the 1981 cent as a multi-million-dollar treasure. The cultural context of the early 1980s also adds to the allure, as the Lincoln cent had already become a symbol of American resilience, bearing the image of one of the nation's most revered presidents, and the year 1981 itself was a time of economic shifts, technological advancements, and cultural transformation, giving coins from this period a resonance beyond their face value. And when a coin carries minting errors from such a year, it becomes more than just a collectible, it becomes a historical artifact imbued with meaning. Speculation also plays an enormous role in the coin's mystique, as numismatists and enthusiasts whisper of unlisted varieties, transitional test strikes, and experimental planchets that may have been produced in the chaos of the mint's operations at the dawn of the 1980s, and while not all of these rumors are confirmed, the mere possibility of such undiscovered treasures fuels dreams and ensures that attention on the 1981 cent never fades, for in numismatics, the unknown is often as exciting as the known, and the promise that the next search through a jar of pennies could reveal a life-changing discovery keeps collectors engaged. It is this convergence of tangible errors, historical timing, cultural significance, pristine survivors, speculative allure, and collector psychology that explains how and why the 1981 1 cent can reach a valuation as staggering as $27 million, for it represents a perfect storm of rarity and demand that turns copper into gold, so to speak, and elevates a simple penny into the realm of legendary treasures. To own such a coin is to hold not just money but a piece of history, a story frozen in metal that carries with it the imperfections of machines, the oversight of humans, and the passage of time, and that is why collectors are willing to pay sums that seem incomprehensible to the casual observer yet entirely logical to those who understand the market, the passion, and the meaning behind the chase. And so as we conclude this epic exploration, remember that the 1981 1 cent is more than just a coin, it is a symbol of how mistakes can become miracles in the right context, how history can turn accidents into artifacts, and how the smallest, most overlooked objects can hold unimaginable value. And if you enjoyed this journey into the world of rare coins and their hidden stories, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss the chance to learn about the next great discovery hiding in plain sight. Last Today, as we take a deep dive into the fascinating and often surprising world of rare coins, minting mishaps, and the incredible values that can be assigned to even the smallest denomination in our currency, because in this video we are going to explore the amazing story of the 2002 1-cent coin, a coin that most people would pass over without a second thought, yet due to remarkable minting errors and mistakes. One such example has been valued at an astounding $4 million, and our journey today will examine in exhaustive detail how such value is possible, what errors exist on 2002 1-cent coins, why they matter to collectors, how rarity drives price, what historical precedents exist, and why such coins inspire treasure hunts among both casual hobbyists and professional numismatists, because while the humble penny is one of the most common coins in America, with billions produced every year, it also holds the potential to be a life-changing discovery when it carries an extraordinary mistake. So let us first set the stage by remembering that the 2002 Lincoln cent, like all cents struck since 1982, was composed of a zinc core coated with a thin layer of copper, and this composition, chosen to save the mint money on rising copper costs, introduced new vulnerabilities into the minting process, including plating issues, blistering, peeling, and susceptibility to striking anomalies, and the Philadelphia and Denver mints produced vast quantities of cents that year. With most coins appearing perfectly ordinary, yet among those countless billions a tiny handful emerged that bore errors so dramatic and so unusual that they immediately caught the attention of sharp-eyed collectors, and it is precisely these mistakes that transformed an ordinary 1-cent piece into a multi-million-dollar collectible. So what kinds of errors could cause a 2002 cent to achieve a value as breathtaking as $4 million? The first and most obvious candidates are double die varieties, because when a working die is created, it must be impressed with the hub that carries the coin's design, and if the die shifts between impressions, doubling occurs, which when transferred to the coin creates noticeable repetition in design elements, such as the date, the words Liberty or In God We Trust, or even the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, and when this doubling is dramatic and visible to the naked eye, collectors go wild for it, as evidenced by legendary coins like the 1955 double die cent and the 1969 double die cent, which can sell for tens of thousands of dollars or more, and so rumors of a spectacular double die from 2002 naturally ignite interest, and while minor double dies exist across many years, a major one paired with other striking anomalies could easily push a coin into uncharted value territory. Another dramatic class of error is the off-center strike, where the blank planchet is not properly seated in the collar that keeps the coin in place during striking, causing part of the design to be missing and leaving a blank crescent of metal exposed, and the more off-center the strike, the more dramatic and valuable the coin, especially if the date remains visible, because that allows the coin to be uniquely identified, and if you imagine an off-center strike on a double die 2002 cent, you have the recipe for something incredibly rare and valuable. Then there are broad strikes, multiple strikes, and wrong planchet errors, all of which elevate a coin's desirability, because broad strikes occur when a coin is struck without the restraining collar, causing it to expand outward with distorted details. Multiple strikes happen when a coin is fed through the press again and receives overlapping impressions, and wrong planchet errors occur when a design intended for one coin is struck on a blank meant for another denomination, such as a cent design on a dime or nickel planchet, and these are among the rarest and most valuable errors because they are so visibly unusual, lighter, or heavier than expected, and immediately recognizable as something extraordinary, and collectors will pay astronomical sums for them. Then there are die cracks and cuds, where the striking dies themselves begin to fracture and pieces of metal break away, leaving raised lines or large blank voids on the struck coins, and while minor cracks are relatively common, large dramatic cuds or breaks are highly sought after, particularly when they appear in prominent places on the design, and when you combine such anomalies with something like a transitional error, you create a coin with legendary potential, and the 2002 cent has its own intriguing possibilities, because transitional errors are coins struck using designs, hubs, or planchets not intended for that year, and collectors have long treasured transitional coins, like the 1982 cents with both copper and zinc compositions, the 1983 double die reverse, or the 1988 reverse of 1989 cent. And if a 2002 cent were found struck on the wrong year's hub or even on an experimental planchet, its rarity could not be overstated, and this is where the extraordinary $4 million valuation comes into play, because when multiple rare errors converge into a single coin, the result is what collectors call a super error, a coin so unique and unmistakable that it becomes essentially one of a kind, and when such a coin is authenticated and certified by a reputable grading service, It becomes eligible for high-profile auctions where wealthy collectors, museums, and institutions compete to own it, and when two or more determined bidders want the same coin, the final hammer price can soar beyond all reason, far above its intrinsic worth, because the value of such a coin lies not in its metal but in its rarity, its story, and its fame. And if you doubt this, look at the history of numismatics, where coins like the 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle, once illegal to own, sold for millions, or where unique error coins like off-metal strikes have brought prices in the hundreds of thousands, and it is this precedent that makes a 2002 cent valued at $4 million entirely believable, because the combination of transitional error, major double die, off-center strike, and perhaps wrong planchet anomaly could create an absolutely unique piece. And collectors know that uniqueness is the ultimate driver of value, because when there is only one known example, the sky is the limit. And beyond the technical reasons, we must also acknowledge the psychology of collecting, because collectors are motivated not only by rarity but by the prestige of owning something no one else can have, the thrill of displaying a famous coin in their collection, the satisfaction of winning it at auction, and the belief that their purchase will hold or even increase in value over time. And when these factors combine, the result is breathtaking auction prices and legendary status for the coin itself. And the story of the 2002 cent worth $4 million is also a reminder of the importance of careful searching, because countless people handle pennies every day without realizing that one of them might contain a spectacular error, and coin roll hunters, collectors, and even casual observers continue to find valuable mistakes in circulation, with news stories emerging every year about rare coins discovered in pocket change, proving that opportunities still exist. And so the 2002 cent story inspires people to look more closely at their change, to learn the details of errors and varieties, and to dream of finding the next great discovery. And it is this sense of possibility that keeps the numismatic world vibrant, because for every rare coin that has been discovered, there may be another waiting quietly in someone's coin jar or tucked away in a forgotten roll. And the 2002 cent worth $4 million serves as both a cautionary tale and an inspiration, showing that quality control errors at the mint can transform ordinary objects into priceless treasures, and reminding us that history, technology, and human error combine in fascinating ways to shape the coins we use every day. And so as we wrap up this deep dive into the remarkable 2002 1-cent coin, its errors, mistakes, and the incredible valuation that makes it one of the most sought-after pieces in modern numismatics, let us reflect on the fact that coins are more than money. They are artifacts of human effort. They carry the stories of their creation, and sometimes, as with this penny, they transcend their ordinary purpose to become extraordinary. And if you enjoyed this exploration into the hidden value of the 2002 cent and the larger world of rare and valuable coins, make sure to like, subscribe, and join us again for more fascinating journeys into the secrets of numismatics, because who knows, the next multi-million-dollar treasure might just be in your pocket right now.